This is the Sharing Without Shame podcast, where we go beyond addiction to uncover the deeper roots of trauma and shame. Hurt people hurt people. They hide behind masks. And here, we're done hiding. We're sharing our stories without shame.
Hello, and welcome to the Sharing Without Shame podcast, ranked among the top 100 addiction, recovery, and sobriety podcasts by Million Podcasts. I'm your host, Donna Marston, a mom who's walked the painful path of loving a child in active addiction. Addiction isn't just about the substance, it's often rooted in trauma, hurt, the unmet needs that ripple through families and relationships. This podcast is for parents, partners, and anyone facing those challenges, offering hope, understanding, and practical tools to help healing and bring balance back into your life. If you're ready to begin your own journey of healing, download my free guide, 5 Boundaries and Breakthroughs, and they'll be linked in the show notes. So today I would like to welcome Jacqueline Williams. She is an author who earned her BA in psychology from Long Island University and a master's in education and human development from George University. She's a retired special educator and advocate for children with chronic and terminal illness, and she devotes her time to writing and to her 2 adoptive daughters. Jacqueline is also the founder of Who's at Risk, a free youth empowerment program for girls ages 10 to 20 who have experienced trauma, bullying, or low self-esteem. Welcome, Jacqueline.
Thank you, Donna. It's such a pleasure to be here with you today.
Well, I'm honored to have you. So the first question I like to ask everybody is, what would you like to share without shame?
Most people who have experienced trauma carry a burden that was never theirs to carry.
Mm-hmm.
Never, ever, especially with a childhood trauma.
Mm-hmm.
Where we should have been protected, sometimes we were neglected. But as adults, we can make the decision to be more than a survivor and be a thriver. I tell people all the time, if you ever question, can you make it? Will I ever live beyond this? Use my life as your baseline.
Mm-hmm.
I had a hellish childhood, and God has blessed me with a remarkable life. People always say, how can you stay so positive? Because I'm still here. Because I'm still grateful. Because I want to have conversations with wonderful people like you, Donna, and others.
Thank you.
Because the shame is never ours really to carry.
No.
It was just put on us, and so we carried.
So you talk about childhood trauma. You grew up in a household that was not a place to be. And we don't need to go into the details or anything. But as a little girl, how did you get up every day and put one foot in front of the other? How did you find a way to just move on and take that hurt and move through life? I get the impression that there wasn't a lot of hand holding, or maybe
No.
there wasn't support or somebody hugging and loving you and saying, listen, we're going to get through this together.
Well, there was my sister, and we had that love for each other. But I think that most children are resilient. And so during the childhood years, I lived in a small community in Long Island, and we were all busy just being kids, riding bikes and roller skating and playing in the dirt. And because it was a neighborhood with so many kids, I just lost myself in being a kid every day.
Wow.
Because back then I didn't know that what was going on was wrong yet.
Key word, yet.
But by the time I'm 10 years old, I start to develop the way most 10-year-olds don't. And it didn't feel right anymore. It didn't feel like a little game anymore. It felt terrible.
Mm-hmm.
And so I kept the secret. And when we keep secrets, sometimes we keep shame.
Mm-hmm. And we're also as sick as our secrets.
Yeah.
Emotionally ill.
Absolutely. And we grew up in a very dysfunctional family. When I finally told, no one believed me.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I mean, I was pretty battered. So something happened to me.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it was too horrific and no one wanted to believe it. So I became the kid who lied. And that's what started the shame.
So you were labeled
Yes,
as the liar
yes,
in the family.
the liar in the family.
And that couldn't have felt good.
And so I threw myself into academics. I tried to be the best student. And I got great grades and I was very popular and I had a lot of friends, but inside I was dying.
Mm.
I was just dying.
Now, would you have your friends over? Did they ever come to your home? Or did you just keep everybody at an arm's length?
They came, but most of them didn't come twice.
Oh, so it was prevalent of what was going on if they
Well,
came?
there was so much violence and it my mother's boyfriend was very violent and he would beat my mother up. He didn't care who was there.
Oh, wow.
So most kids didn't come back twice.
Yeah, I can't imagine why.
But they went home and told their parents, who felt sorry for me and always invited me to their homes and included me in their family vacations. And a lot of people in the community did anything they could to help me get out.
Did anyone ever report it to the police?
Yes, the day it stopped, I ran out the back door. It must have been about 3 degrees, waist high snow. I had no coat, no socks, no shoes. I ran to my grandmother's house. And so my uncle was there, who was a police detective, and he said to my mother, if you don't report it, I will.
Thank God.
So she reported it. But when they took me to the doctor said I was still a virgin. Thank God. Thank God, because there are 2 little girls who didn't, their fate was much worse than mine. And so they just all believed that I lied. It was easier, even though I was bloody when no coat, no shoes, 1 sock. Kids don't run through 3 degrees in New York like that. It stopped. That was the end of it. But I didn't know it stopped. So I lived in fear. Every single time he moved at night, I was terrified. So by the time I graduate from high school, I'm smoking pot, drinking real heavy. And by the time I'm 21, I tried cocaine.
Mm-hmm.
And cocaine worked.
Mm.
It blocked out everything. I was absolutely euphoric. And so I was addicted to cocaine for 16 years. All of my young life, I was a junkie in a designer suit, going to work, overachiever, coming home, shaking, puking, sniffing cocaine like it was free and legal. I was always sick, nose always bleeding. I was sitting at my desk one day and blood just started to run out my nose.
Mm. Now, how old are you at this point?
I was about 26 then,
Mm-hmm.
very prominent employer in New York who I won't mention. Um,
Because you're a teacher. Are you a teacher at this
I
point?
wasn't teaching yet.
Oh, okay.
I always wanted to be a teacher, but the shame and the way the molestation made me feel, I felt like I was never good enough to be around anybody's child. And I also heard people say, if you're molested, you'll grow up to be a molester, which is not true at
Oh my
all.
God.
That's crazy. And so I wouldn't teach for a long, long time. So I found a lot of success in the nonprofit sector, working in services for children and families, but not directly with children. One day, I had lost everything. I was in an evicted apartment. They just hadn't put me out yet. I had no money. The man I loved had just given up. He just gave up, And that day, I decided to kill myself. I decided to try to make my heart stop. And so I ingested 1/8 of an ounce of cocaine. Didn't work. I went back and bought another 1/8 of an ounce. So I ingested 1/4 of an ounce of cocaine and my heart slowed down, But thank God I didn't die. And I began to pray. And I said to God, if I have to live like this, I don't want to live.
Mhm.
So that day I told the truth. I had prayed a whole lot of prayers, but they
So you
weren't
told the
true.
truth.
But that day I told the truth. And that day it ended. And I went and I got professional help. I never went to a drug treatment program, but I went to a therapist because I had an idea that all of the abuse and the molestation and the violence, I had a sense in my heart that that's what made me use drugs in the first place,
Mhm.
because nobody protected me.
Mhm.
And I lived my life in shame, and my therapist taught me, and I also still lived in fear. And so she's a wonderful woman, God rest her soul. And years later, I went back to visit her because I kind of stole from her in an insurance, well, I didn't kind of, I stole from her in an insurance scam. And I paid her back all the money that I owed her. And she said to me, didn't I tell you when I first met you that you were going to make it? She said, I'm telling you, kiddo, I know when people come through the door who's going to make it and who won't. I have now been 33 years clean and sober.
Wow, congratulations.
Thank you. But it took a long time to deal with all that happened to me and to learn that it was never my shame to carry. Shame on the person who did that to me. Shame on the adults in my life who did not protect me,
Mhm.
because the abuse started when I was about 5 years old.
Wow.
Yeah, shame on them, not shame on me. And most people carry shame. They carry so heavy, Donna, that often it breaks them. It makes me so sad,
Mhm.
because you can have a great life. You don't have to carry it. You absolutely don't. When I learned to put it down, my life changed. I became
You learn to put the shame down.
yes.
Yeah.
When I learned this is not your burden, don't you carry that, Jackie. It just, I mean, I had to go through a lot of personal work, and I had to face a lot of things. I even had to face that my own mother didn't protect me,
Mhm.
and, and accept that she loved me, but she didn't love herself enough, because she didn't protect either my sister, neither one of us were
Mhm.
protected. But she always told us that she loved us. She always said you could be anything. We had nice clothes. One of my classmates from high school said to me, Jackie, you always look so beautiful in school. You had the best clothes, man. You were so popular. But I wanted to be your friend, but you were so mean to me. And I said to her, come, let me tell you why.
Mm.
And I remember her husband looking like he was afraid for her. So clearly she had talked about me. And we linked arms and we took a walk, and she cried so for me. And I said to her, but Kathy, I'm okay now.
Yeah.
In fact, sweetheart, I am better than okay. I have a great life. I'm
Yeah.
an advocate for children who are chronically ill and terminally ill. It's
Mhm.
remarkable to see them wheeled onto a school bus, or to go onto a school bus and go to school and their needs be met. And they come back, and sometimes they can't talk, but that smile lets me know, Miss
Mhm.
Jackie, I had a good day at school.
Mhm.
Not to mention the hundreds, thousands of kids that I taught and God let me touch. And the
Mm.
parents that I met, the times I was asked to come and speak about why we have to nurture children with special needs, just like we nurture children who don't have special needs. God could have chosen anyone in the world to do it, but He let it be me.
Mm.
I'm still excited. I've been retired for a long time, but I'm still excited.
Wow.
It's just that difficult time that you got to press through, you got to push. You know,
Yeah.
I always tell people, try to tell the whole story to someone.
Mm.
If you know one person who is non-judgmental and will listen to hear you, not listen to respond, try to
Mm.
tell the whole story, because sometimes once we get it up and out of us, that's the first stage to healing. It's in
Yeah.
that conversation that you begin to understand, this should never have happened to me.
Yeah, and when we say it or write it, we're purging it. We're
Yes,
it's like relieve me of the bondage of self.
absolutely.
I used to,
Yeah,
when my son was in active addiction, and I went through the steps because I was a nosy, controlling mother, and I wanted to know what they were about. But one of the third step prayer was, I don't remember the whole thing, but what I took out of it is relieve me of the bondage of self so that I can better do thy will.
yeah,
And today I use that. I still
yeah.
use that because if sometimes what I do, that stinking thinking up here can sabotage us and bring
It
us
can.
back
Yes,
to those times of pain or the unworthiness.
Yes, absolutely. I always wanted to have 2 children. I didn't make it with my fiancé. He kind of gave up, but he was a good guy. He tried. He would literally go pay my drug bill every week when he
Mm.
got paid. And I thought the drug dealers were so busy that they forgot I owed them money until I heard one of them say, "Oh, you could let her have a package because her husband comes every Friday and pays her bill."
Wow.
I was stunned for a minute, but my addiction was such that I just went home and shoveled cocaine up my nose until I was sick of shoveling cocaine up my nose.
Yeah.
Then I drank beer to try to come down. And one day he just couldn't do it anymore, you know.
Mm.
And so I'm grateful though. He found someone. He is happily married. He's a good guy and he's doing well. I didn't get the husband, but I got the 2 kids. One of my coworkers said to me, "God didn't give you a husband because you didn't need a husband, but he gave you the 2 kids because that's what you needed." So, so I raised Desiree and Daryl. Daryl was 11 months old and Desiree had just turned 3 when the court gave me custody of them. Their parents asked me to um to raise them, and I did. And I'm I mean, being a single parent was tough, but I got to see Daryl win a cheerleading championship. Desiree played the cello. I mean, Desiree with horseback riding was like unbelievable because I'm a kid from Amityville, Long Island, middle class family. There was no horseback riding. You know,
Yeah.
my mother
Yeah.
was a domestic. She cleaned houses for a living. There was no horseback. And besides, I'm scared of horses. They're such big creatures. Though
But they're very spiritual.
she taught me to just let the horse come to you, and there was a giant horse, and the horse loved me, but I didn't love him. And I tried not to look at him, but he kept nudging me because I
Mm.
was like, they say the horse can tell if you're scared.
Mhm.
If I turn around, he's going to see I'm scared of its head is as big as my body. And I turned around, and oh my God, he was the most beautiful horse that I had ever seen in my life. And so I made friends with him. Red. He was almost flaming red. I mean, he was red and just a beautiful, beautiful horse. And so I say that to say I have had so many remarkable experiences for a
Mhm.
kid who shouldn't have made it. The quintessential chick who should have just been lost in the sauce. God has
Mhm.
been that good to me. I've had a remarkable life. And so I'm just kind of developing a whole new chapter. I wrote the book, and the book was absolutely freeing.
By his grace is
Yeah,
the name of your book.
it was it was like the final chapter. Now it's done. The world knows.
You released your pain.
Yes, release my pain. And one of my aunts, before she passed away, she called me and she said to me, "Jackie, I am so sorry that I didn't listen to you. I'm sorry that I didn't believe you. Kids don't make up stories like that." She said,
Right.
"I should have protected you and I called you a liar. Can you ever forgive me?" And I said to her, "Of course I can. I love you.
Mm.
I wouldn't know Jesus Christ as my Lord and Savior if it wasn't for you." And
Mhm.
she said, "Can you ever forgive your mother?" I said, "I already have."
Yeah.
Forgiveness is for you. Forgiveness is not for the
Absolutely.
other person.
And people don't often understand that. But forgiveness, especially I imagine, with the childhood that you had, it took time to be able
Yes,
to get to that point
it did.
to be able to forgive because we all have to, no matter what it is, whether it's with a drug addiction or when you hit your enough, you stop doing cocaine.
Mhm.
When you had enough of carrying that pain of not forgiving people, all it does is weighs us down, right?
Yeah,
You're
yeah.
carrying a backpack and it's just full of bricks.
Bricks. Yeah,
And we're just heavy and so when you start unloading those bricks and one forgiveness at a time, the
yeah.
load lightens up, and then
It
you're
does.
able to live your life and celebrate your life and move forward doing the great work that you're doing.
It does.
Writing your book. Tell us about your book, His Grace.
My book is, I call my book a memoir because it's my memories. And it's pretty raw, it's pretty dark, but it tells the whole sordid story. But it also tells the happy ending. I always tell people that my life as a teacher was an honor and a privilege People say that teaching is hard. It is. It is the toughest job you'll ever learn to love. But it is still my honor and privilege to have been a teacher.
Mm-hmm.
So many children, especially because I'm an elementary school teacher. So, from kindergarten to grade 2, your teacher's a rock star. But
They like
kindergarten,
you.
yeah, they think you're everything. Kindergarten kids are absolutely amazed when they see you like at the dry cleaners or the supermarket because they think you live at school and you never leave. So I've had those wonderful experiences. I've had a grandmother say to me, Miss Jackie, my granddaughter was laying here dying until you forced the school district to let her in.
Mm.
And every day she would smile. Every day. I would tease her, I would go, are you wearing a mini skirt? Oh my goodness. Did your grandma know you got on a mini skirt? She thought I was the funniest thing on the planet. Just the sweetest kid, happy, and could understand you but couldn't communicate. And in school, she learned how to answer questions. She learned how to point and touch. I mean, little things that typically, if you have a child that doesn't have a disability, you never think about it. But
Mm-hmm.
to a kid like her, that was everything. To have the whole class clap for you,
Mm-hmm.
it was just absolutely fabulous. Her grandmother even allowed videotaping, and so that she could kind of keep the memories of her beginning in school. And now that kid is 22 years old. That kid who they said wouldn't live, she's 22 years old.
Mm.
And I think some of that is because she had interactions with other kids
Sure.
and she went to school. And even though she had to live in a hospital, she got to go outside and feel the sun on her face, the bump of the bus.
Yeah.
Yeah, she got
Yeah.
to do all of that.
Yeah.
And God let it be me. How amazing is that? I'm
Mm-hmm.
just a kid from Amityville, Long Island, you know.
Now, when you were a teacher, were you able to just know, like, that gut instinct that you knew what was going on in a house before the kids ever said anything to you, that
Yeah.
you could possibly just, I don't know if you could hug when you were teaching. I know they don't like
Yeah,
hugging.
back then you could. I'm
Yeah.
that
So,
old. Back then you could hug, you could feed the kids. I had hungry kids. I had a little kid in the second grade one time. She used to tell the other teachers, guess what we're having for lunch today? Meaning my lunch.
yeah.
you know. I mean, I had a kid who had a mucus condition, and teachers would say to me, Williams, why do you clean her every day? Well, because her mama sent her to school and her face not clean. That doesn't mean I put on some gloves and I cleaned her face. She
Yeah.
was so cute. She
Yeah.
was a cutie pie. She had Down syndrome. Absolutely adorable. Neat
Mm.
and clean, but mom didn't like dealing with the mucus. Well, nobody likes dealing with it, but you can't just leave it there.
Right. Yeah.
And she started to learn once we started to clean her face. I
To
had
do
a,
it herself?
yeah, I taught her how to do it herself. She's just very deep voice. You do it. I was like, no, you're going to do it. No,
Yep.
just made my day. I've had so many phenomenal experiences. So many, my sixth grade class who used to just be so mad at me. I remember one of them saying, Miss Williams make me sick. She always in my business. And I said, if you had business, you would not be in the sixth grade. Do what I tell you to do. Everybody out of the bathroom, let's go.
Yeah.
But when they graduated and were going to seventh grade, oh my God, one of those kids brought her great grandmother to meet me. And she said, I never would have made it without Miss Williams. See, those
Wow.
things, nobody can ever take that from you.
Yeah.
When we carry the shame, there's no telling what you were meant to do or become. Don't
Mm.
carry the shame. It's not yours to carry. It's
Yeah.
not.
And so from all of everything that you've been through, working with special needs children, you founded an organization called Who's at Risk.
Yes.
Can you tell us about that?
The acronym for who's at risk is WAR. Many times kids are at risk because they've been labeled at risk and they don't even know they're at risk.
Yeah.
And their parents don't know they're at risk. So our efforts are to educate educate families about what it means to be at risk. You've been labeled at risk. This is who statistics say you are. But who do you say you are?
So
Because
what are the labels that they
um,
get when they're labeled at risk? Is it because where they were born,
poor
the
achieving,
drugs
yeah,
in
yeah,
this system because mom
yeah.
had a drug
Because
problem?
mom had a drug problem, or dad had drug, or dad went to jail. You're a lot of kids with dads in jail, or an incarcerated parent. Because one thing that we learned was it's not just the dads who are incarcerated, but kids with incarcerated parents, kids who are being raised by grandparents, kids who maybe live in a two-parent family, but there's not a lot of money. So those kids aren't wearing Jordans and Calvin Klein shirts. So poor kids, and ironically, kids who are super smart are also at risk, but they're at risk in their own communities, not in the academic world. A lot of times, I had a group of kids who were straight A students all the way from elementary through middle school, and were awarded Ivy League scholarships to go to fancy high schools. And when they would come back into their communities, they were labeled. You think you're different. The Black kids were called, you think you're white. The white kids were told, you think you're better than everybody else. When they were smart, that's it. They loved learning, but at risk because somebody could hurt them. And if they didn't hurt them physically, they were certainly hurt emotionally and made to feel ashamed of their abilities.
Yeah, because they're being bullied for being.
Yeah. Biracial kids absolutely went through bullying. Both my daughters are biracial, and they're very pretty girls, and so they were bullied for being pretty. A male teacher actually said to one of my daughters, "That's the best weave I ever saw," and she said, "This is not a weave." So I had a conversation with him.
I bet you did.
Yeah, I was a very vocal parent. Yeah, I said to him, "Do you know that I brushed and combed her hair every day? When she was a baby, she didn't have any hair. And I brushed and combed and braided her hair once it was long enough to braid. So that's why her hair looks like that. But no, it's not a weave." And I told him, "Come here and let me show you." So I said, "Daryl, take your hair down." So he takes her hair down. We open her hair. It's not a weave. But if it was a weave, what did you do to her self-esteem by saying that to her in front of all the other kids? I said to him, "Do you know I could sue you? You're a man. First of all, you never should comment on a young lady. Not anything on the young lady should you comment."
Yeah.
So you've got educators putting kids to shame.
Yep. Yeah.
Which makes them at risk. When you do that to young kids, and they haven't resolved it, because every parent didn't grab both our little girls and run to therapy like me. That's the kid who starts to drink. That's the kid who experiments with drugs, because that one comment broke something that was happy, loving, and trusting inside. And now they're at risk for drug addiction.
Yep.
For alcohol abuse.
Yep.
Yeah, for accepting abuse in a relationship. And a lot of times, families don't even know, because all parents aren't bad, but many times parents are working because they've got a mortgage, 2 cars, 1 kid in college, 2 in elementary. They're doing the best they can, and they don't even realize that their kids are at risk.
Yeah. Yeah.
So who's at risk is about those nuances that we don't always see.
And so what do you do for it's for girls 10 to 14?
Yeah.
So how do people learn about it? Because you're in Virginia now. So is it nationwide or is it just in
No, it's just in Alexandria.
Yeah.
So we'd love to be nationwide. We're going to see what happens. And so we meet weekly, and the adults guide, but the children talk. For all intents and purposes, it is a conflict resolution peer mediation program.
Nice.
And the
Nice.
kids run the program. We
Nice.
train them and then we step back.
Wow. What's your goal with it? If you were to go nationwide, is it something you want to bring into the school
I
system?
would love if every school had a student-run conflict resolution peer mediation program. A lot of times kids do not want to be violent, they don't want to fight. And given some of the things that are happening in our schools nowadays, that's why we start so young. We think we need to start in second grade, and we can simplify the concept enough for children to understand that kids don't want to fight. They don't want to hurt each other.
Well, when hurt people, and
Yeah.
when kids don't have, especially when they're little, they don't have the verbal skills. So
No.
it comes out with, through the hands or
Yes, at the feet.
the feet, yeah, kicking or punching, but it
Yeah.
comes out one way or the other, and with words that maybe they hear at home,
Yes.
right? If someone's putting them down, they're putting other people down. And I'll tell you, so I used to, years ago, when my son was in active addiction, he's been in recovery for over 17 years now, and I went to a CODA meeting, Codependence Anonymous, and this woman came in and she was hot, she was worked up, and she said, this woman, she was at Dunkin' Donuts, and she must have been on her phone and didn't move up like the inch. Right?
Okay.
And the person behind her is impatient and kept beeping and just started to get really rude and yelling stuff out the window. And this woman got out of her car, I think, and looked backward and said, "Who hurt you so bad that you're treating me like this?"
Wow. Good
I
for
thought,
her.
wow, I'd never heard that before.
Most people
But
think,
how right on is it? Like,
yes,
your hurt comes out one way or the other,
it does.
and you
It
take
does.
it out on other people because it's been done to you, and that's all that you know. That's the normal.
Yeah. And we
So
have to teach kids that that's not normal.
it is not, and that's
Right
what your
this way.
group,
Yeah.
who's at risk, teaches. This is how we behave. We don't
Yeah.
throw a punch. We don't throw a hurtful word or a label.
No.
This is about unconditional love.
And we ask kids all the time, how did that make you feel?
Yeah.
Because a lot of kids aren't in touch with their feelings. They're a bundle of emotions, but they aren't in touch with their feelings. We have to
Well,
teach children that.
because it's generational, so like
Yeah.
my grandparents who would be well into their hundreds now, that was a generation where you don't make waves. And
Nope.
the same with my mom. My mom,
Especially women.
right, yeah, right. And she grew up she was born in 1928. You don't make waves, you don't talk about anything. And women didn't have privileges that they have now. And I grew up where children should be seen and not heard.
Heard.
And each generation, the kids are going, I'm not putting up with that anymore.
No.
The kids today,
Yeah.
like, no, let me tell you about my feelings.
Yeah.
And they need to be heard.
They need to be heard. That's why they talk, we listen, they run. What do you think should happen? What would you do in this scenario if you were the decision maker? And I would love to pilot in, and we're hoping that the city will work with us to pilot in a local school just one time. But it takes a lot of courage to let children run things,
Sure, sure.
and so we've got a lot of hurting hearts in education.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
as we wrap up, how do people get in touch with you? And how do they get your book?
I actually am on Amazon, Jackie Williams, by His Grace. I'm on social media. Again, I'm Jackie Williams on Facebook, Jackie's Biz, BIZ, on Instagram, and I still answer email. I'm retired and I still answer email.
Do you
And
want to give that out or no?
yes, WILLJAC58@gmail.com.
And final words of wisdom, what would you like to say to the listeners?
My favorite saying is, please don't give up.
Mm,
It was never your shame to carry.
mm.
You can put it down. It is systematic, some work to do, but you can do it and you can have a great life. I bet there's a gift inside of you that the world is waiting for. I bet. I'd bank it on it. I'm sure of it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Donna.
Thank you for joining Donna for today's conversation. Remember, trauma may wear many faces, but healing is about uncovering the truth beneath the pain and learning to live without shame. If today's episode resonated with you, please subscribe, share, and leave a review. It helps this message reach more hearts that need it. If you have a story of navigating trauma, shame, or addiction and how you found your freedom, Donna would love to hear from you. This podcast is built on real stories, and yours could inspire someone else's healing. Visit sharingwithoutshame.com to connect with Donna, apply to be a guest, or learn how to bring her books, coaching, and speaking engagements to your community or organization. Until next time, remember, healing begins the moment you choose to stop hiding and start sharing without shame.